So how do they make sets like Ikoria? Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Outside Notes. This one is all about how they make limited sets and, of course, specifically, Ikoria. Have you ever wondered how they actually make the sets? Do they start from scratch? Is it just a huge spreadsheet? How does this even work? I know for me, I would think that there's got to be some type of formula or something like that, but just as an everyday Magic player, it's kind of hard to imagine how they take nothing and turn it into a fully fleshed out set that's going to be balanced and all these types of things. So I think a good starting point for this discussion is, what would you like to see from a set if you're a set designer? And for me, some of the things that came to mind offhand were, I want to see something new, fun, exciting, some new mechanics, or maybe specific cards or tribes or whatever. And the reason for that is simple. There's a new set coming around the corner basically all the time. If they're all the same, you might lose interest as a player. So one of the major things they have to do is make sure they bring something cool and new to the table. Now, of course, as a competitive player, one thing that would be really high on my list is a balanced format, right? If one color pair or color or archetype is way too good, it can throw the balance off for the whole rest of the format. Balance comes in many ways, not just by color or color pair, but also by individual card. And also from a big picture perspective, the archetypes, how well are they balanced against each other? Of course, another one, at least that comes to mind for a player like me and probably like you, is replayability, right? Some people just play once or twice or maybe once a week and, they'll get a little bit of experience in. But, there's a certain type of player, like, again, me and you, who likes to draft a ton of times. And in order for us to keep interested, you got to have some hidden gems in there. Now, these can be archetypes that weren't obvious at first blush, maybe a certain type of card that's normally not very good, but happens to be good in this set, or some build-arounds, just anything to keep the interest going for the long term. And then another thing that came to mind were some build-around-me cards, right? Having these fun, powerful cards that reward you for doing the thing that the format's all about is really cool, and it makes drafting the set more fun when they come up and you get to build around them. So the big question, of course, is how did they accomplish this from a set that we know a lot about right now, which is Ikoria? Now, one of the cool things about doing a show like this is we get access to some of the people that actually work in the building, inside R&D at Wizards of the Coast, including my friend Andrew Brown. Let's give him a call and ask him how they make limited sets and talk to him about how they made Ikoria. And there he is. We've got an AB, Andrew Brown. How goes, sir? Nice to see you.
It's going pretty well. Other than needing a haircut, I'm pretty good. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing all right, hanging in there the best we can. Can you tell our viewers here on Outside Notes what your role is at Wizards?
So I'm on the play design team. I'm currently the technical lead. So what I do is I work with my team on balancing limited, constructed, and just helping the set leads get to a nice final product.
First off, for Ikoria, what were some of the major themes coming into the kind of playtest part that wanted to be accentuated or focused on?
One of the biggest things was definitely like make big stuff matter. So like we kind of started from like what are some of the biggest limited creatures that we can like get into the environment that are actually strong and exciting. I think like one of the biggest examples is probably like Majestic Sterix. Like that card, really strong, first pickable, totally happy to have it. And I think that one is definitely one of the first things we focused on, is just like make big matter.
And by the way, this brings up an important point that we will undoubtedly bump into again in the conversation, which is that they changed the name of that card. It is Auspicious Starix now.
Auspicious?
Yeah, and you guys in R&D have it so... I don't know how Paul does it, when he was working in play design and then would come in the booth, because you have to somehow remember the names of the cards, but then they get changed all the time. It's like, oh God.
Yeah, like when I'm playing on Arena, I don't even look at the name. I just say, oh yeah, that's Majestic Sterix. I've seen that a million times.
Yeah, so big stuff matters. And wow, you guys definitely had some of that in the set. One of the sort of tweaks on that design concept that I really enjoyed were the really big cyclers, right? So sometimes it's an 11/11 trample if it's really late and you draw it. But if not, hey, I can cycle it and get a little bit of value off of it. I thought those designs were really home runs.
Yeah, those are definitely some of my favorites, and especially like with the black-green subtype of Reanimator, like we really tried to lean into like you can cycle it and you can, put a trample counter, death touch counter, be kind of fine with paying 3 mana for that, but then like if you build your deck correctly, you can get that value plus an awesome creature for a bit of a discount.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that Reanimator sub-theme because I find it really cool when little pockets of a theme pop up, right? Where you're like, hey, if I'm black-green, this is a real thing, right? Like I can actually make this work. Where typically in Limited, you're talking about kind of 2-card combos, something like I have a decent creature and I have a Reanimator spell, and as long as they're both okay, I'll put them in my deck. But here it felt like something you could actually work towards. Do those things happen organically in a set, or is that something that you're purposefully doing?
No, we purposely do that. Like, there's a lot. I think the biggest thing you can look at is some of the incidental self-mill in the set.
Yeah.
Like, the mole, I don't know its name, but it's 3/3 trample mill 3.
Yep.
And then the skull prophet, the thing that taps to mill. So there's like some incidental milling. There's like corpse churn too, that like you can get some cards in your graveyard, and then we give you Reanimator cards that can, get them out for a lesser cost. That's part of the beauty of playing and learning Magic Draft, is like the more and more you play it, like the more intricacies that you can see that have been like built into it.
Yeah.
And that's always some of my favorite stuff.
I want to get into the nitty gritty here a little bit on how it works in R&D. In the broader Magic community, we have all types of hyperbolic expressions for cards. This card's broken, this card's busted, this is gross or unfair, or, all of these type of things that are our way of saying, this card's amazing or really strong. But I would have to imagine that when you're testing in an environment where you can actually change the strength of the cards through various parameters, that you'd need to be a bit more specific than those type of terms. How do you communicate the power level of cards to each other?
Yeah, I definitely got to reiterate there that specificity is really important when we're doing our jobs. We can't be like super hyperbolic all the time. We have to make sure that our point is concisely communicated and that the person we're communicating with understands us. So we generally use 2 kinds of ways to identify the power level of a card. The first thing we do is in the middle to early part of the set design process, we use a thing called quick pointing, where we assign a number value 0 to 4 to each card in the entire set all at once.
Okay.
So like for 30 minutes, I'll look at every single common and uncommon in the set and assign it a value 0 to 4. And then 3 other people will do that at the same time. And then we aggregate those scores all together. And then we have allocated numbers for like each set should only have this many 1s, this many 2s, this many 3s. And then we, change the card file based on, this had too many 2s. Let's make some 3s. Let's make some 1s. And that's called quick pointing, and it's supposed to be quick. We're not supposed to like Pro Tour final testing meeting. This card, would you pick this over this one?
Right.
Gun to your head. Would you do that? No. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to make sure that we can get enough information from our play tests that the colors aren't super unbalanced. It's a way to make sure that the next play test can get the information that we want. The other one is called bucket pointing.
Bucket pointing. I like it.
We do that one about 3 times every set. This one's more closely related to the stuff that I used to do when I played on the Pro Tour, where we would line up every single card in a color and then like kind of assign it like, this one is over here because it's stronger than this pile, stronger than that pile. You think about it like double quick pointing. Quick pointing is 0 to 4. In bucket pointing, we'll have like 0 to 9 buckets. So it's like double granular. That's how we get the finite balance at the end, where we want to be like more exact of like, should this be a 3-2 or a 2-3?
I see. Now, next question I have, and this is this is kind of a headliner for this set, right? Which is red, white, cycling deck. Yeah. Did you guys know how strong this set was in testing? Is it okay to have archetypes like this that kind of stand out above the rest of them? How does that stuff go for you guys in R&D?
We definitely try to make sure that some of our archetypes are like loud and easy to understand. Like red, white cycling is a really easy one to understand, right? You take all the cards with cycling. Yep. It says whenever you cycle a thing, great. And we want to make sure that those are like within bounds of being, generically strong. So that like, person who only drafts one time a week tries it and they can have a reasonable time, right? But I think the thing that was kind of harder for us to discern is, a lot of the play right now is happening on arena and draft leagues. And that is all kind of cross-pod, right? So there's no, I don't want to say hate drafting, but like in our internal drafts, when we draft and play design, like it's everybody who's drafted a bunch. So we're going to take all the Cycling 1 cards. I'm not going to let you have Zenith Flare number 3. Get out of here.
Right.
But, on Magic Arena, when there's like outer pod drafting and not everybody's thinking about that, the extremes of certain decks definitely get a lot higher. So that's something that we're definitely really thinking about in terms of like designing for outer pod play.
Oh, interesting. Last question for you, Andrew, is about companions. Now, companions have been one of the most talked about mechanics that we've had in a really long time. Yeah. How did you envision the companions fitting in for limited, and were you worried that they'd be too strong?
Well, we definitely wanted them to be doable and limited. I think probably all of them are doable except for Zerda, which is the activated ability one. But, it's such a unique experience, right? Stipulation cube draft, pretty much, right?
Yes.
You have to follow these rules. It's a very new and novel experience. So we wanted to make sure that you could do that as many times, like as much as we could. So like 9 out of 10 of them, you're like, you open it first pack, you're like, I can do this. It's going to be reasonable. I think that just adds to so much of the depth of the format. Like, you draft on Arena, you lose to, I don't know, Obosh, and you're like, man, I really want to try that. And then, hopefully try to open Obosh, right?
Yeah, and then when it comes to power level on those, you guys had so many knobs to turn. I can't imagine trying to solve that problem.
Yeah, like one of the more salient lessons for me is like, it really takes a village, We're only a small enough subset of people. We have to make predictions. We can't spend a million years testing the same thing. But, when the entire Magic community of 10,000 people grinding 10 hours a day, like eventually they'll figure it out. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and they'll let you know too. They're not shy.
Wait, actually, I haven't heard. Can you tell me?
No, I'm not going to do that. Andrew, thanks a lot for coming on to chat. And also, I have to say, the fact that I'm still drafting Ikoria as M21 previews are being shown is about the biggest compliment I can give for the limited design. So great job.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, buddy.
You have a good one, Marshall.
All right, we'll see you. So that was awesome. Getting a chance to talk to people that work in the building and are responsible for actually making the cards and sets, and getting some great insight from him really does shed a light into not only the complexity, but some of the actual ways that they go about making these sets. Now, it wouldn't be Outside Notes without at least a few highlights, or at least what's left of them. Let's see what we've got for this week. So let's check in on our friends from Loading Ready Run.
Because I get around S and Scatter.
I don't know what he's grabbing.
Oh, Titan off Rex.
Oh, this is actually Adam playing the game.
With Trample.
And getting wrecked, as they said.
This is what we're setting up.
Ben looks fine with the game. Is so bad. Yeah, it's because we're watching through Discord. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Just in time to watch something. Wow!
Sometimes you just need to play to your outs.
Yeah. So, sometimes you just need to play to your outs, says Adam, and I couldn't agree more. Now, the Ikoria dream has been the same since day one, and it hasn't changed.
Well, the dream would be find my second Zenith Flare off of these cycles. The dream. Chat. Unlimited power!
It's so ridiculous. And it's still a thing. Right? This is still a thing. You can still just draw your other Zenith Flare from cycling and do 16 damage in one turn. Welcome to Ikoria. And last but not least, we'll visit our friends at Loading Ready Run once again. It's hard to find clips.
No.
What the? Oh, okay. Oh my god, cycling.
So Ben's like, no blocks.
Still a lot of triggers.
That's a big stack you got there.
Take 10?
Take 10.
Did I say take 10?
Go ahead and get that other Udar.
Wow.
Oh, come on, come
Yeah.
on.
Wow. Wow. Oh my god. Am I just dead? How much damage is it? This is all. Wow, it's almost lethal.
Oh my god.
Cycling. All right. And then you just.
I can't believe that you called it. Was that Adam?
Yeah, that's just insane. Something that we've seen throughout the course of the format, though, is if you're getting attacked by the cycling deck, you're probably taking more damage than you thought, and that's why you saw Ben say take 10, because he kind of knew it was going to be more than that. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Outside Notes. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Outside Notes. If you want to get updated whenever new content goes up on this channel, make sure that you subscribe below, and we'll see you next time.